Okay, I'm gonna start in three, two, one.
Mhm.
Three, two, one. Hello and welcome to the first episode of the Course Directory podcast, a podcast where I interview people about what course they do, what what they study at university. Um, Let me try that again.
All right.
Okay. Okay. Hello and welcome to the first episode of the Course Directory podcast, the podcast where I interview people about what course they do, what subjects they study at university. I'm your host, Naufal Ubaidi, and today on the first episode, I think, the perfect guest, really, one of my best friends who I've known since I was 7 years old. I am
Okay.
now 22. We've known each other for 15 years. Then is that right? I think I did that correctly.
That should be right
Yeah.
somewhere there.
So,
Yeah.
would you like to introduce yourself?
Well, my name is Srbjeet Singh, and I am currently doing a degree in general IT.
At
I'm in the IT field
at which university?
at Help University.
Okay, yeah, you do need help.
Yeah, I do. You're
Uh,
not
for
wrong.
for listeners who don't know, that is a very common joke. That is told
Mm.
go to Help University.
Yes.
Help University is a university in Malaysia. It's in where is the campus located?
Campus is located in, well, there are a few campuses. There's one near my house, and there's one in Subang. I go to the one in Subang,
Okay,
because
right.
that's where I think they transferred all the IT people from.
Okay,
Like
right.
to
They kicked you guys out of the main campus then.
Yeah, they kicked us
Right.
out. We were too annoying.
Uh, I can imagine. Okay, well, I mean that I think that we're off to a good start here. So to start off with, the first thing I'll ask you, I mean, you already did say what you were studying, but then what is like the actual official title of your course? Like on the certificate that you get when you're done, like what would it be labeled as?
They'll be labeled as Bachelors of Information Technology.
Okay, right, cool.
Yeah.
So so the first real question I have is, did you,
Right.
before going to university, did you want to go to university?
Did I want to go to university?
Yeah,
No,
you did not.
no, I didn't. I did not. The reason I ended up going to university was, well, because of some personal stuff, and also because well, let me just start off with this, because the reason I went, okay, right, is because I wanted to create games, right? That was like kind of the whole reason. There were universities that offered like full gaming courses, like how to like game design, 3D modeling, animation, and then your regular like coding languages to help with creating games. Like that existed. But my dad didn't want me to do that. And I also was kind of like, well, if I dedicate 100% into all of this, if I fail, I'm screwed. So
Hmm.
this is kind of like a compromise where like I can learn like other coding languages, some aspects of design, and like stuff here and there, mostly coding, and also like some business stuff, some like business subjects that were added in, right? Uh, and where was I? Just
Right.
again.
Well,
Right.
essentially, like,
What?
yeah, what you're saying is that you wanted to like make games and like code and design and that sort of stuff, but and like there are courses that are sort of geared towards that, but then you don't, obviously,
I
you
don't
don't
want
want to
to.
go put all your eggs in one barrel, or I mean, that was the wrong phrase. All your eggs in one basket. There it is.
Basket, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's why I went. So like I could fall back on something if like that didn't work out,
Right.
or
Okay.
like too hard to sustain or something.
Hmm.
But yeah.
I guess the next question is like, now that you're actually on this course, I mean, you said yourself that it's like a, to a degree, like it was a kind of compromise. Like, would you say you enjoy your course?
Some aspects I enjoy, others not really. I enjoy aspects of, when I actually learn stuff about computers, their hardware, software, and like coding in general, which you think would be the bulk of my course, but actually they emphasize a lot on the business side, which I'm like I get why I need to know this, but like also like it's kind of just annoying that I have to like sit through all these like lectures of like, oh, this business process means you need to do this, and then there's this waterfall thing, and then there's something called agile you have to remember, and then there's this and that, and I'm like, dude, I want to know
Hmm.
this. I don't really care about this. And then there's also like stuff like networking, which like, okay, yeah, general IT, I get it, but like, I don't much care for networking. It's pretty hard for me to understand, so I had like a tough time with that. So like, yeah, there's also like this side thing called MPU. I don't exactly know what it stands for, but that a certain subsection of subjects where we like need to take. I think it's something to do with like the Malaysian government requires you to take these subjects. Some of
Hmm.
them are just pretty easy, like Malaysian history, like pretty basic Malaysian history.
Right.
And
Like
then
it,
there's
so that's like a
also
kind of more of a general education subject, which just like really has literally nothing to do with the thing you chose to study.
yeah, like
Yeah.
nothing to do. Like, yeah, like this semester I'm taking philosophy. So
Okay.
I don't know what that has to do with IT, but like, I kind of have to. I'm
Hmm.
required to take like at least five of those, I think, throughout my whole degree. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I'm pretty interested in some of the points you raised there, like especially about like you're saying like there's a lot of focus on like business aspects and like also networking. Like I'll follow up on that, but like just to give some, I guess, like context before we really go into the details of like your specific subject.
Mhm.
I was gonna ask, I was actually gonna ask if you what was the prerequisite you needed to get into this degree, but I think I already know that you needed to get like a diploma in IT, right?
Yeah, you need to get either you needed to complete a foundation program or diploma.
Right, and you did the diploma.
I did the diploma, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And the other thing that I guess we should maybe get out of the way before going into specifics is what is your academic calendar like? Because for me, obviously, it's between September and May, but like you're still having classes now when I've finished my academic year. So what does that look like for you generally?
It's pretty basic that it just starts in January and it ends in November.
Okay, right. And
Yeah.
in that time, you've got like a
Three
summer break.
semesters basically.
You've got three
We've got
semesters, and you've got like when are your breaks then usually?
uh like in between semesters 3 weeks. So basically like first semester is done, we get a 3 week break, and then another semester starts, and then it gets finished off in another 3 weeks, and then 3 weeks again.
Right.
So it's
Okay.
just like in between the three semesters, 3 weeks.
Right. So it's like 11 months, and then you've got like, let's say, a month and a half worth of breaks, or like 2 months maybe worth of breaks over the course of those 11 months, like
Yeah.
spread out.
Yeah, like spread out, yeah.
Okay, right. So now we'll go into the specific details of your course. We'll talk about
Mm.
specific subjects. Now, because I did ask you prior to doing this what your course was called so that I could look at the Help University course page for your course.
All right.
And you're in your second year now, right?
I'm what?
You're in your second year now, right?
Yeah, I am in my second year, yeah.
Okay, so I'm just going to look at the course listing page. Literally, I have it right in front of me. And I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
ask you about some of the compulsory subjects that are listed here, right?
Mm.
Okay, so the first one here says user experience design. What does that
I'm
mean?
actually taking that this semester.
Okay, great, perfect.
All right. User experience so far from what I've known, I've only just started. It's like the first week, literally. So from what I know, we're gonna just learn like design principles and how like we would design stuff like websites,
Hmm.
applications, how they would look, and how to like neatly design stuff, basically.
So this is like kind of like a GUI thing, like a graphical,
Like a GUI thing, yeah.
like it's teaching you how to like
Yes.
design stuff in a way that makes it so that people who don't understand about computers are able to use it.
Yeah. Basically, that.
Right.
There's some
Okay.
theory to it apparently, but I haven't learned that much about it yet.
Right. Theory in what sense? Like design theory or like you mean software theory?
Like design theory, yeah.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting then. Okay, I'm just gonna pick them at random. I won't ask you about everything because it says here that there's 11 compulsory courses, and I mean, you tell me if this because it says year 2 and year 3 course listing. So you tell me if you've not done this yet. Systems architecture and design.
Oh yeah, that's like how you plan out your projects and stuff. Basically, that's what that subject teaches out. So like how you would plan out your like development life cycle and stuff, you know? Like
Did okay.
like
What do you mean by that?
for example, when you make an application of any kind, you
Hmm.
need to go through certain steps for it to be
Right.
like actually functional. So there would be like a let me see if I can remember. There would be like a initial idea phase where you come up with like, oh, what are the requirements that we need for this? Like if you're making something like an enrollment page or something, like a student enrollment page for your college, you'd be like, okay, so how do we make this easy for students? What could we add to that, right? And then there would also be like the testing phase, there would be the development phase, and then there would be the maintenance phase where the product's already been released, and then like if there are any issues that arise out of that release, you know perform maintenance on it. So that's
Hmm.
what we learn. There's different types. I can't really remember the names off my head. There's something called the incremental,
Okay.
which is what I've just said, I think. And then there's oh no. The one I've just said was something called a waterfall, where it's like a straight thing, where it's like one after the other.
Hmm.
There's
Like you mean
another
like a linear
process,
development path?
like a linear development
Okay.
path. There's another called iterative and incremental, where I think it's prior to release. You have like a focus group, and then you go through the cycle again and again until you have a finished product, and then release that finished product.
Hmm.
And then you will go to maintenance. Basically, there's a few that we
Right.
get. That's one of the more business orientated ones, so I can't remember much.
Right. Okay.
Other than that,
Well, I mean, I think that's interesting because okay, so you mentioned like creating applications, right? So let's use that as an example because I think you have mentioned before, like to me when we're talking, in our capacity as friends, like developing like apps. So like let's say, right, for the sake of example here, right, I used to review toilets.
mm-hmm.
And people would sometimes say to me like, oh, you should make that into an app. So the app idea is like, say you had Google Maps and you had toilet Yelp reviews, right, of all the public toilets which are in area, right. And
Mm-hmm.
so the app would be a way of like finding toilets, and then you could also filter the toilets by like rating or like by different features, and like this is a way to like help people find toilets that are comfortable for them, like when they're out in public. Like you could make that app.
Yeah, I could.
Talk me through like as layman as you can, like what would it look like at each stage? Like what are the kind what do you learn on your course that tells you how to do that in the way that obviously I can't? Like when you go to class, like what are they telling you specifically that is stuff that I don't know that gives you the ability to make that app, but I obviously couldn't because I've not got that information.
Mm,
Like
I
essentially
guess.
what is the knowledge barrier stopping me from creating that app?
I guess the process of creating it, I guess, right? Like the stuff I just mentioned. You'd need to plan everything out, and then you'd need to know the specifics, like what language you're gonna use, how you're gonna use it, and like I'm pretty sure you'd need like some deep knowledge of. I haven't learned this yet, but I'm pretty sure you'd need some form of knowledge on like uh No, I have learned this, but it was networking, so I can't. But like some deeper knowledge of networking, because you need Google Maps, and then you'd need a map of like all the toilets you said, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, so you need all of that basically.
right. Going back to what you said earlier, I mean, you mentioned it just now as well about like kind of some things being more business oriented versus some things just kind of being like I guess it's like the difference between like say someone is a programmer versus someone is a programmer who has their own business. Like one person is like thinking about how to like theoretically, I suppose, market software that they're programming versus the other person is just doing it. So
Yeah.
like on your course, so you're saying you're feeling this kind of tension. Like maybe talk through that a bit. Like what is because I've definitely felt this before on my course, like of like certain things that are kind of trying to market us for employability. Which
Mm-hmm.
I find a bit annoying, and like you're saying that you find it annoying as well. Like, yeah, well, like what
Mm-hmm.
is I guess what is something that you wish you focused more on at the like as opposed to like what you are focusing on sometimes or what you feel like you're being pushed towards?
I feel like, 'cause, there's a lot of business subjects in this. There's of course there's business and communications. There's also communication and leadership skills. There's what was it? Careers in Malaysia and beyond. That's also a subject.
Mm.
uh there's stuff they push you towards like event management and stuff. It's like fine, and also IT project management, which I guess that's required, right? I know, actually, no, yeah, I guess that's required also, right? But like still,
Mm-hmm.
I just want to know how to create and not how to advertise myself,
Right.
right? I don't know. Maybe that just doesn't work in today's world, right? I
Well,
just
I
I
mean,
just
I think that's a fair thing that you're articulating, right? Like, because I guess like with me, like when I study politics, I'm just like, no, I want to talk about political theory. Like, I don't necessarily want to talk about like how do I advertise that political theory? Which I mean, I recognize that being an important question, right? Like it's, I suppose
Mhm.
you could, if you were to draw it, like contrast it with what with you, right? It's like you could have the best software, best program in the world, but if nobody uses it, you're not really helping anybody, right? I suppose technically
Yeah.
that's, but it's like it's also a question of like, well, I don't care to market it. I just care to sort of make it, and then if other people figure it out, that's their business, right?
Right, yeah.
In my university we call them optional units. That's just the stuff we get to choose that they don't force us to do. So
Right.
what were some electives you chose, and what do you do in them, and why did you feel like you wanted to choose that elective, instead of something else?
Mm, there was one where it was a web programming. I found that pretty interesting,
Mm-hmm.
right? You basically throughout the whole semester learned how to make your own kind of website and
Mm-hmm.
how to manage like a database of like information. So like I made like it was like a shopping cart type thing where a
Okay.
user would log in the details, and then they go in and then they pick out like what items they'd want from the store, and then it would the names, the price, and the ID of the item would be stored into the database, and then it would show up again in their cart if once they click the cart icon. It's pretty simple, once I say it out loud, like it's not much going on there. You log in, pick the thing, open the cards, like, oh hey, it's there, and then you can check out, and then everything's gone. There's not really much in terms of actual like uh like, I mean, yeah, it's a project, so there's not much going on there, but I found that cool. I could make a website now. I fully just know how to make a
Right.
website, how to manage it through, what was the thing called? Oh, through Stamp, which is like a database kind of handler thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I know how to do that now. So that I just found that whole subject cool. I aced that subject.
So I mean that's one that you really enjoyed. Was there any other one that you were like a particularly big fan
Um,
of, like elective course?
there was another one. It's not web program. I don't know web program. I mean, sorry, it's not. It might have been. Hold on. I think it was called Introduction to Mobile Apps or something along those lines. Something mobile apps, I think,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where you would just create a full-on app. That was also pretty cool because I got to see it on my phone. That was the cool part.
Mm-hmm.
It was on a pretty simple, I think anyone could learn on a simple website called what was it called? Android app or something, Android creator or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the site now. But the coding was really easy there. It was like you would match up blocks together basically of code, like literal blocks. You'd match them up together and then you type like what the criteria was on like an
Like
empty block.
Tetris.
And I'd say more Lego.
Okay, right.
Or
That
like
does
puzzle
make more
pieces.
sense.
It was puzzle pieces. It was puzzle pieces. That's what it was. Then you'd like type out the criteria of stuff. So like a timer block, you'd connect it to a blank one, and then just it would just be like, oh, at 1600 or something, and the timer would go off at 1600. So it's like something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was cool. I made like a whole because my assignment for that one was I had to create like an app for kids to learn like like I think any two subjects, and I chose BM and maths. So that was cool. I For the maths one, it was just like a drag and drop type thing. So it'd be like, oh, what's 1 plus 1? And then you drag the two over there, and then it would play like a silly sound.
Right.
It'd play like a silly sound, like, whoa, you did it. The confetti would be on the screen.
Right. You mentioned assignments. I'd be interested in knowing like what generally do your assessments look like? I mean, obviously it's probably different for each thing, but like because I think I mean this is maybe reflective again of like what my university experience is like because like 80% of my assignments are just essays. So I feel like they're
Right.
all very similar. But then I mean, what does it look like for you when you're assessed on a unit?
Well, I think the main thing for my assessment throughout my degree at least is that I need to pass because it didn't used to. I know. Okay, wait. I did because it used to be you could get let's say the passing grade is 50% overall, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I could get 30% for all of my my assignments, my written test and stuff
Mm-hmm.
during the course. And then for my finals, I could get a 20% and then I just pass, right? I pass the subject. I get a 50%. But in degree, you need to get a 50% for each. So for like cost assessment, for assignments, for any quizzes, tests, you'd need to get 50%. And then for the finals on its own, you'd also get 50%. Of course, it's different for each subject, as you mentioned, because right now, one of my subjects, the lecturer was like, okay, so I talked this out with one of my superiors, and they were like, all right, so this semester, we do not have a final. So
Mm-hmm.
the cost assessment is just 50% overall again
Right. Okay.
for, for, for like that. And then another subject has finals where it would be split into 30% for one assignment, 20% for a written test, and then the rest is going on in the finals. So it's like that. It's kind of just split.
Right.
That's
Okay.
how it always is.
Mm. Okay. Well, I mean, we're getting towards the end of this now. So I've got like two little questions that I wanted to ask you. You kind of alluded to one of them earlier. I know you don't like
Mhm.
maths. You were very clear about the fact that you don't like maths. I've sent you
Oh, I
maths
hate it.
equations on Instagram before, and you refused to answer them.
No, I hate
Um, yeah. Is there much maths involved in your course?
it. Yes, kind of, kind of,
Okay.
kind of. Like there is a whole subject dedicated to it, but like in programming itself, yes, kind of there is maths in a way. It depends on what you're making. Yeah, it
Okay.
depends on what you're making. Depends on what you're making. It doesn't have to just be like, oh, well, I'm making a calculator, so obviously I need maths. or I'm making I don't know what else requires maths. That's like I'm creating a phone application, so I need maths or something, right? It could be something completely different. It could be like, oh, I'm creating like a shopping thing. I need maths to calculate the total, right? It could also just be like, what was my assignment last semester? Because that also required maths. It was to make, right, it was like to make like a work from home thing where you'd you kind of allocate the days, not allocate the days, well, I can't really remember, but like here and there you would need maths one way or another. I can't remember what my last assignment was because it was so traumatizing to me. My last semester was really hard. It was
Okay,
extremely hard. Yeah.
right.
Yeah. But it's not like equations or some bullshit, right? It's like pretty simple. From so far, it's been pretty simple.
Right. Okay.
Like, your average plus minus divide times,
Mm,
that's it.
right. Okay. So manageable then. I mean, there is like some basic mathematics, but it's not anything that's like a deal breaker.
Yeah, it's not anything that's like a deal breaker, no.
Okay. The other little question was, I mean, I know that I do this, but do you get a lot of people asking you to act as tech support for them essentially?
Yeah. Not a lot, actually. A few. Because most of my friends are already doing
Uh-huh.
IT.
Yeah.
A lot of my friends are already doing IT. So it's like, it's more so like, oh, they show me stuff and then when they need it, I'm like, oh, hey, actually you can do this. And it's like, oh, it's more like we're sharing tips and tricks rather than
Mm,
really like, oh, well, your computer's busted, well, I can fix that,
right.
type stuff. It's
Okay.
more so that. And then there's like, occasionally one of my friends would ask about stuff and then I try to help them. But like
Yeah.
that's like not as common, yeah.
Okay. All right. Um, so the last question I was gonna ask, and I think I'm gonna ask this in all subsequent episodes to people. Do you
Mhm.
think the stuff you learn on your course is information that everyone could use, or do you think really only matters to people who really actually care about it and think it's interesting and are passionate enough to obviously study it?
I think the people who are passionate enough to obviously study. I mean, I don't I don't see a reason as to why like the average Joe would need to learn or need to know how to program things, right? So I think really only people that really want to get into it would like really have to or like need to or like because they'd want to, right? So that's yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't think it's going to be like one of those like future like utopian, those memes of like, oh, society if something and it's like a utopia. You don't think if everyone took a bachelor's in IT, it would look like that? It would probably just be like,
Okay, that's an interesting question. If everyone
I
knew
mean,
if everyone knew
would
how
we like
to
have like a society of super geniuses if everyone did a bachelor's in IT, or like it was required for people to learn that?
if you knew how to program, which I don't know, I don't think so. I don't think
Okay.
so. I guess no, well, I guess you could make your own stuff to make your own life easier rather than like trying to find because some people have specific problems, right? That like some apps can't really fully do or something along those lines because it's like it's not it's not really profitable or anything. So maybe I don't know if everyone knew they could like just make their own stuff. Like I don't know if you want to keep track of your I get there's like calorie counters online, but like I've never found one that's like sticking to my thing because I'm working out, right?
Hmm.
So I've never really used one because I've never found one that's really like, oh, okay, so this has like all the food stuffs that I usually eat. It's normally just categorized like in general, like, oh, how many carbohydrates do you eat? How much rice, how many cups of rice do you eat? When it's
Hmm.
like, well, today I didn't really eat rice, right? So maybe you could do stuff like that for yourself.
Okay.
You could be like, okay, so I know rice has this many calories. I know that I eat a lot of this, and this has that many calories, and then you could make your own stuff from that, and then you can keep adding on. I guess, yeah, I guess maybe. My answer is maybe. I don't know.
Okay. I think that's a fair response. Yeah, so that is about it for the questions I had and for the discussion points I wrote down. I think that was pretty good. I feel like I have a much better understanding of what you do. I want to say thank you for coming onto the first episode of
Oh,
the Course Directory podcast.
yeah, no problem. No problem. Not an issue. No problem.
Okay, is there anything, I mean, I don't know who you're going to promote it to because this is the first episode and I don't know how many people are going to listen to this, but is there anything you would like to shout out or promote or, just say add at this end point?
Shout out to my lecturer, Mr. Steven. He's a cool dude. Helped us a
Very
lot
okay. I
in IT mini project. That was great.
okay. I was not expecting that. I think that was a very appropriate way to end this off.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thanks everyone. If there isn't everyone, for listening to this first episode of the podcast. Even if there's no one listening, we at least had a good conversation, and that's enough for me.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody.
All right.